People that have had sex with someone with a disability. What was different about the experience? Interesting noises from a deaf girl. Especially interesting when I wasn't aware of her deafness. We had communicated the whole night in the club via text on her phone. Then her being a different nationality and me being in a different country, I'd assumed it to be a language barrier thing when she kept the phone texting up on the walk back to my room. I was quite drunk, which probably didn't help realizing sooner, but it was an instant realization once the noises began. I had sex with a man missing his left arm and shoulder. He was really good at spooning 10/10, would spoon again. I'm guessing he spooned laying on his left side? Unless he deliberately made his only arm the bottom spooning arm. Who would submit themselves to that kind of torture? Dated a girl who was blind about 7 years ago. Having sex with her was pretty normal, although she used her hands a lot more. Edit to clarify a small detail. We dated 7 years ago. The woman in question was born blind and, as far as I know, still is. Had intimate intercourse with a mute woman. Honestly wasn't that different, still lots of moaning, but didn't at all notice during the act. Switching positions was still normal too since we both gestured with our bodies. Can mute people moan? I think it depends on the nature of their muteness, but generally yes. My partner was born without a femur in one of his legs. Affects sex 0% from my perspective. He's expressed before that he's disappointed he can never hold a girl up against a wall and have sex while holding her. I can't think of a more uncomfortable position though and have no desire to try it, so I'm secretly glad that this isn't a possibility. I can attest, it's more difficult than you'd think. Kinda fun, but mostly just to giggle and keep going. If you're going really crazy you might keep it up for just a minute or two and the novelty wears off. Not a cool position at all. I have a permanent drywall scar at the top of my butt crack from getting the male genitalia rammed into me against a wall. It was highly textured too, so it ripped the poop out of my skin. I actually left blood all over the wall. Dated a girl with MS in the past. She walked with a limp and had some motor control issues, but the sex was pretty normal. She struggled being on top, but she gave her all. That's the thing about disabled people. The ones that really make it in life have got levels of enthusiasm for the whole deal on account of the joy of triumph over massive strife. It's like this kind of joy that needs a critical mass of suffering to understand and experience. But when you do, it must be goddamn existential awakening, judging by the disabled people I've known. They always make me feel like an entitled, jaded, unenlightened piece of poop because they've been so utterly screwed by the universe but so utterly seem to be content to exist in it. The profoundly deaf make interesting sex noises. That is all. The deaf make interesting noises, period. Lived next to a deaf couple, both deaf from birth, and they were by far the noisiest neighbors I have ever had. Sweet people, but I do not think they realize they are making noise most of the time. Sex, fighting, anything. Tons and tons of unconscious noise. Mostly grunts, groans, moans, things of that nature. I lived on the other side of a wall to a deaf couple and they would fight constantly. The first really bad fight they had, I had freaked out because it sounded like they were smacking the hell out of each other, but after analyzing it a bit, I realized that they were actually just aggressively signing to one another and the sounds were their hands slapping together. I have cerebral palsy, am wheelchair bound about 80% of the time and have such bad muscle spasms and tremors during high activity like sex, that I'm prone to collapse or instant exhaustion. It's made for awkward encounters my whole life. However, it also led to me earning the nickname the human vibrator, and though encounters were awkward, I have never had an experience where they didn't orgasm. Between this and the free parking, I'd say I'm doing alright in life. Edit. I went to bed giggling over this post and did not expect it to get so much attention. Thanks all for the awards. Wanted to write a post about how I had intercourse with a guy with CP. The whole thing was very jerky and very awkward. But not bad. Just very different. Less smooth. I was also disgusted with the way people acted afterwards. People said that I took advantage and his disability would not have allowed him consent. I tried to point out that the man had a degree in economics and a very good job at the local council, loads of friends. And he was the one that pushing for it the whole time. My best mate at the time said spastics can't consent. She is awful. The whole experience made me realize that they don't see this man as person. They just see his slurred speech and jerky movements. They didn't realize there is a funny intelligent person. There is a long way to go for people to understand CP. Off and on dated a blind gal in college. Sex was lots of fun but had to make sure her dog was in the room but unable to reach assist. Without being too explicit, the dog took a few times to get used to her orgasm without being distressed, and we had to stick to fun in the bed or he would be a tripping hazard. I also took a few elbows to the nose as we adjusted in the bed before we learned to talk a bit more, and that it made sense for her to pretty much keep a hand on the back of my neck forearm so she could kiss me when she wanted to rather than just me having that luxury. Best advice I can say is after you get the nervous first time out of the way, spend a good long time just establishing touch intimacy so your blind partner can know their way around you. That and gain consent for each new area touching because body language is so critical in avoiding surprises. She also loved sensory play with ice cubes. That's everything I can think of. We didn't work out because she couldn't see herself with me in the long run but mostly because I wanted to travel and move and she had some understandable anxiety about that which wasn't a priority for her. I told her using a pun to break it off was the best way to get bad news. Edit. Obligation 40HX on the award. Now my alt seriously outweighs my primary karma. And I don't talk to my ex much anymore but other people in a mixed side not couple it seems like there would be some good fact of life questions for an AMA. I know we had some quirks just from a few months. I'm in a wheelchair from a spinal cord injury when I was 17. In college, I met a girl who was also paraplegic as well as having a traumatic brain injury that left her with some memory and speech issues. We spent a lot of time with each other as part of a disabled students group, hanging in our dorms because our rooms were accessible. She had been injured when she was just 7 and her overprotective parents had kept her very sheltered. She eventually got comfortable enough with me to confide that she had never been intimate with a guy before. That led to us kissing and exploring her sexuality. It was awkward and comical at times for a paraplegic guy to be sexing a paraplegic girl, but mostly it was very intimate and lots of fun. I knew about urological stuff and could identify with her concerns with body image issues so she could relax with me and be at ease. We went slow and she gradually got more comfortable and came to like having someone look at her body not in a medical way, but with sexual desire. Lots of discoveries for us as we went along trying everything. Stuff like finding that using a wand and oral was able to get her to have multiple orgasms in a row. A really special moment for both of us. We were scared about autonomic dysreflexia but it wasn't an issue. We spent the better part of a year just playing with each other's bodies. It was great. She went on to date and have relationships and eventually got married. We still keep in touch on Facebook and I'm really happy for her. Husband has type 1 diabetes. I always know shit's about to get real when he unplugs his insulin pump. Like yes unplug that so you can plug into me. Dated a girl in my high school days with type 1. I know exactly what you mean, can someone educate me? I don't get it. Doctors advise diabetics on insulin pumps to disconnect it before intimacy as it, usually, goes into the abdomen which means it's close to the action and you don't want to catch it on something and rip it out. I don't have an insulin pump myself, but am a type 1 that looked into it. My concern has always been you can only have it disconnected for 45 minutes at a time. But we all know if you get into plenty of foreplay and then the actual business the whole affair can last more than 45 minutes. So I'd assume a bonus for OP is that he pumped her. Good and he pumped her fast cause he's got a window to finish in. Blind guy, about to shag. We were really good friends then one day on my couch it happened. We started making out. We hurry off to the bed, he knew my place well and didn't need a cane. Get there we had been only kissing. When he found out how large my boobs were he goes damn nice surprise. Had no idea. I laughed and we had some really great sex, several times. I dated an absolutely gorgeous one-armed woman for a few weeks. Sex was great. Couldn't do doggy for obvious reasons. She broke it off with me because I was too immature for her, which I totally was at that time of my life. She ended up marrying one of my good buds and they have a son together. Very happy for both of them. A couple of years back I met a lady that was missing a lower leg and had a deformed arm. Took her to my place and went to bed. Not really anything unusual about it at all up until this point. In the middle of the night I need to go to the bathroom, so I step out of the bed and onto her leg, her prosthetic leg that she had taken off and placed under the bed. I look down and see a foot. This is unusual to me because it has never happened before and I legit, in my drunken train of thought there was a dead body under the bed. It scared the crap out of me. It took me half a minute to realize it was hers. My partner is a bilateral above knee amputee and doesn't wear prosthetics. We can't do it from behind, but he's extremely flexible. Lack of muscles and tendons do this. We found some positions that work better for us and others that really don't. 10/10 would highly recommend shagging him. Edit. Oh you naughty pickles, 5,000 upvotes. Gonna have to make an OnlyFans for him at this rate. He's reading this and basking in his sexual prowess.